We are speeding right through the year for the newer look Syracuse Common Council. Some new faces, but some familiar ones too, like Councilor Jimmy Monto and the Council President, Rita Paniagua.
Thank you for having us here.
Jeff. Yes. Yeah. So let's start with this one. On Monday, Council passes what's called the biometric surveillance law. Things like facial ID in businesses and other public gathering spots. Rita, why now, and what's the goal of the new law?
So we are concerned of how they identify, these businesses are identifying our residents, our people, with these systems. It's not accurate. Sometimes the information, and sometimes we are looking at people that may have committed a crime or not, and now we're not being accurate in identifying if that's the person you're looking for or not.
Yes.
So those are things that we worry about, especially in the minority communities. Those systems are very hard. It's harder to identify people of color.
Jimmy, how is this law? First, are there places that are using this yet, or are we trying to get ahead of the game?
So I think we're ahead of the game locally.
Yes.
But yeah, Erie County just passed something. Historically, if you look at Texas and Illinois, Illinois especially has had laws on the books for a very long time. Illinois especially has helped with the enforcement piece of it, which is very important. You know, there's not, the legal enforcement would be civil, so this law gives people the right, if they feel their privacy was violated, they have a mechanism to go and actually.
That's what I was going to ask you. How do we enforce this? So it's not like SPD shows up and, you know, rushes in. I mean, it's more of a civil kind of thing.
Right. The legislation does have a fine attached to it if you do violate it, but it really, what it opens up is if your privacy is violated by someone who is breaking the law, you have the ability to go and, you know, file suit.
Okay, gotcha. Quick change of topics. A little bit of a less bumpy budget season than maybe we saw last year. You did make some amendments. Jimmy, what would you say are the takeaways? What did council kind of put in there that they wanted to see as priorities that maybe the mayor hadn't?
You know, I wouldn't say it like that. I think we share the same priorities. I think it was a very collaborative effort. I think what we did, instead of saying that, I mean, it was amended, but what we did was tweak it a little bit. We just kind of took money, moved it around, and put it in places, you know, some housing initiatives, some parks initiatives, a couple positions that we thought could be added. And, you know, we were in agreement. We had the same priorities. It's just maybe little shuffling of the deck.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a fair way to characterize it. So now we've got that big one off your plates for council. Rita, what would you say are some of the other now big items that you can tackle as a council that you're really focusing on?
I think that right now we're going to be looking at housing, which is always one of the things that we have to focus on mostly around the city, and we're also looking very closely through DPW and the other departments that implement. We need to make sure that whoever is doing construction around the city, you know, are paying their fair share to be able to do work in the city. So we're really looking into that, as well as I think between housing and those are our priorities right now. Yes.
Yeah, Jimmy, anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes up a lot of energy. If you look around the city, you see all the cranes and
which is great, right?
It's great.
Absolutely.
Progress. But you also have to keep an eye on all of it. Right? You have to make sure that the residents, especially with the 81 project, the focus to make sure that the residents that are around that project are not suffering more than they need to be suffering. You know, it's going to be inconvenient. It's just the way it works. You rip up a sidewalk, you replace a sidewalk. It's inconvenient for a little while, but we want to minimize that inconvenience. And that's, you know, it's our job. It's our job to take care of the people that live in the city, whether they voted for us or not. You know, making their lives easier.
It's all about the quality of life.
Interesting that we're actually seeing now the project get to the point where we're going to be into the city with work. I mean, really in depth on that. One more thing. I think we got about a minute left here. I want to cover the Citizens Review Board. Last month, suspending all activities that involve the investigation of police officer misconduct or the recommendation for any kind of discipline. Where do we stand with that? What can you say? Are we kind of in a holding pattern?
We are.
What's the future?
We are in a holding pattern right now, but I will start by saying that I don't think there's a counselor or anybody around the city that wouldn't think that the CRB brings a lot of value to the work they do for the city and our residents. So from there, just starting it from that point, right now we are waiting to see, you know, what happens in Rochester. They're in a legal process right now where depending on what happens, then we should be able to move forward. And
yeah, because it was a court ruling involving Rochester that really essentially kind of put the freeze on.
Correct.
What President Paniagua said, the council, nobody doesn't support the CRB, and they can function. They just, there's a piece that they can't do. The appellate court has said they cannot actively investigate complaints around officers. So while that is playing itself out, you know, there's a pause on the investigation piece, but nobody wants the CRB to go anywhere. It's just, they may look differently than they did before.
And actually, the council, last year, we worked very, very hard to rebuild the council, the CRB, you know, so we really want to see this flourish and do the job they do.
To be continued. You guys will be back at some future point, too, I guarantee it.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.